Now you're listening to Selector Stix. And it's Romeo and Brown gonna represent every time you don't know.
College represent from morning. Selector Stix always.
Behind every cloud is a shining hope. Selector Stix, time longer than road.
Great, this is Lenny Ranks from Starrvybz, TNT Entertainment, and RJR 98.3 FM.
And I'm Selector Stix, and I'm also with RJR 98.3 FM, amongst other things, which I'm sure we're going to discuss, Lenny, right?
Really, yes. It's great to actually get the man to sit down with me today, because you've been penetrating the reggae industry in a way, you know, in a good way. Right. And one of the reasons why have you an interview, especially with Starrvybz, not only with Starrvybz, for the world to know that reggae music in different foundations and you know, in different ways, in different tastes. And you actually only fresh in the business. Liverpool, yes, and Liverpool famous for quite a lot of things, you know, and getting into the reggae business is something not actually easy for some people. Sure. No disrespect, but you know, it's well known for reggae music, Jamaicans, but not so much back then, like Europeans. But you know, it's great to know that European is actually taking it further. Now come to you.
Sure.
Yeah. So what inspired you actually reggae? Because I know that you say about back in 1982.
Yeah. I think it was just one of those things, you know, like when I was at school, I was more like into, you know, sort of like punk and kind of new wave music, you know. I didn't have that association with reggae music. I didn't know any people of Jamaican backgrounds, anything like that. But I was kind of into how best way I can describe it to you. I was into kind of rebel music, you know. Yeah. So something I felt a bit, you know. And so we were listening to certain musics, and then you go around to somebody's house, you know. And then one day, and somebody played. And it's funny because I haven't listened to it for a long time now, but it was actually, you know, Linton Kwesi Johnson,
right?
You know, the dub poet, and.
Brothers and sisters rocking, a dread beat pulsing, fire burning, chocolate power and darkness creeping, night, black veiled night is weeping.
They were playing it and, you know, burning a thing, you know, and I was listening to this kind of dub music in the background and listening to the message, you know. And some of the things that he was talking about were things that made me socially, I wasn't fully aware of, like 17, 18 years old, you know.
Right.
So it kind of made me kind of check really, and you know, and from that it was just the same person, you know. Next time you went, he had another album, Culture, 2/7's Clash.
Yeah, that's right.
These weren't fresh musics at the time, but for me, like Steel Pulse, Aswad, I'm going to say Aswad, I don't mean the Don't Turn Around time of Aswad, I mean the more when Aswad was, you know,
just
more
coming fresh and powerful,
you know. And so it was that really that kind of was my first introduction to it, you know, that, you know, without really knowing a lot about the kind of history and the culture and things like that.
Actually born in Liverpool, Merseyside, yeah?
Yes,
and grew up in that side of the town. Did when you really get into your blood that, yeah, I love the reggae music and all that, did you actually have it in you that, you know, I'm going for it, or was it like gradually you got into it?
Yeah, slow, man, you know, it was like a slow kind of process. I remember I went to a show in Liverpool, 83, Eka Mouse, right?
Early Sunday morning, it was a pick and just bubbling. Inna the mud, me a pick and lay bother, me a load them down in a tub. Hey, one by one, load up the fan.
You know, that was the first time I saw something a little bit different, because you know, Eka Mouse was big, taller than me, you know, a big tall guy, and he had like this like prisoner suit on, you know, with the arrows, and he kind of come on, and you know, the rhythms with the Roots Radix band. And before they were playing, even like the sound system was playing, and that was probably the first time I ever kind of properly heard like a sound system.
Yeah.
And you know, all these little things were all part of that to me, like a little kind of stepping stones, you know. So So kind of, first off it was the dub and the kind of roots reggae, and then, you're starting to hear a little bit more, and it was just coming along very slowly at the time. It wasn't like all of a sudden like bam, I'm kind of, and then by about 84, like I had one friend that had moved to London, and I don't know if you remember that time, there was a lot of, around that time there always used to be a lot of sort of free shows and things like that used to be going on around the place. So we came down to London, and the guy lived in the Elephant and Castle, so we were quite near. And I remember, in the flats and things, hearing certain tunes playing, and and we went to the Sunsplash in Crystal Palace, and I remember the kind of like reception that Dennis Brown got there, and that was kind of like whoa, So it was just little things like that, just moving along and being in that environment, was kind of, I was really quite fascinated by it all,
So like the explosion you had when you went to Sunsplash, Crystal Palace, how did that feel to you? Did you actually make up your mind before you leave Liverpool, or was it then when you Crystal Palace and you see the atmosphere, you thought, did it kind of build up more into you that I'm going for this?
Yeah, it was more that time. It was like, I was thinking, I want to sort of come down to London, and then the following year, 85, I came down to London, and I only stayed for about a month. And I did, at that time I missed home, and I missed, I missed most of my friends and things like that. But I actually was supposed to go and work for London Transport. So when I took the test, I passed the test with London Transport, and they said to me, we'll send you a letter. It might be a month or 2 months before you can start work. Yeah. And because I was waiting, and I was kind of, so I went back. I came back that summer to the second Sunsplash in Crystal Palace. Don't know if you remember that one. Gregory Isaac was there, Sugar Mine,
it was massive.
Maxi Priest. Because I always remember being around that short time I spent in London before that in 85. I always remember, it was funny, Maxi Priest was like, Should I by Maxi Priest, and that was playing everywhere, and listening to like Rodigan, Tony Williams, and some of their underground stations and things like that. So all of that was, sort of like on me, and I knew then that I want to come, but I wasn't quite ready at that moment in time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, reading the biography, I thought that in the short of time, 1982 to 2014, I really thought that, you done a hell of a lot towards reggae music. You met some great people,
sure.
There's some names as well, kind of Kilimanjaro and them lot, and you've been to various countries, you've been to Italy, you've been to Gambia, you've been France, you've been quite a lot of places. Tell me about when you travel abroad.
Well, for me, it was after I come to London, started working regular, going to that, and I went to Jamaica.
Sorry, yes, that's what I
went to Jamaica. So 87 was like, I remember we used to have, I don't know if you remember when the Reggae Sunsplash concert was on Channel 4, when Channel 4 first started, so we knew about Reggae Sunsplash, we'd been to the one in Crystal Palace. So we said, that's the next thing. So we went to Jamaica 87, I was kind of I was more familiar with things. I was, going to the record shops, but going to Jamaica 87 for Sunsplash, that was like the kind of, up to that point, that was the kind of highlight, because it was just the whole week, we did the whole week. So we were there, the Veterans Night, the dancehall night, So I'm not saying we saw everybody. I can't remember everybody that we saw.
How did you when it was in Jamaica, right? Which you're now in the heart of reggae music, right? Sure. And you're in the heart of all the artists and people around, the writers, musicians, and everything else. How did you like? Did you fit in, or did you feel as if you wasn't fit in?
No, man. I think at that time, you're sort of like 21 and. Sometimes you haven't got a care then at that time, have you? So we just kind of were like, bouncing along like we were, and then certain people would sort of see you and like used to wear. I remember I had this pair of Clarks, and this guy said to me, "Oh, yeah, you must be English with the Clarks," And it's kind of like, do you know what I mean? And even though people would come up and say, "Oh, when you kind of said, oh, we're from London," kind of people knew, London at that time, it was really, wasn't it? it was Jamaica, New York, London. They were the three reggae capitals, really.
Yes,
so
that's
from
right.
you came from London, or were coming from London to something like that. I suppose people had a sense that you weren't completely green, if that makes sense, yeah?
Yeah, one of the main reasons why I asked you that, I know that it doesn't matter because UB40 is one of the leading group in Jamaica for various times. But why I asked you that because I had this said a few times, because of your height, you know, you were 6'4", 6'5",
sure.
and you know, if you go into a dance, you know, you don't see many 6'4", and because you are European, and might say somebody say he's a policeman.
Yes,
I asked you that, you know, I know you didn't have problem in getting with the music and thing, because I know you have actually met quite a few people while you're in Jamaica. So you didn't have no problem in that sense.
Nah, man, and when I'd come to London, you know, the first place I was working, I worked with people, and you know, already by that time I'd started to meet people of Jamaican, Caribbean background. You know, so as I say, going over there, I wasn't completely green. Because the second time when I went, I even spent some time with a friend from his, you know, family kind of thing.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Tell me about how did you actually get to meet up with them?
Yeah, what the people that were over there. Well, it was funny because the first time I went with like 3 or 4 other people. The second time I went by myself for the Sunsplash concert, you know. So already that time I felt confident enough to travel by myself. Yeah. But they lived over in St. Elizabeth near the Black River.
Yeah.
And so I was staying for a little time in Montego Bay where the Sunsplash was. I went over there, took the bus over there, spent some time, went to a little dance down there, you know. So the second time I went, I really felt like I was able to immerse myself more in the kind of culture, you know.
Yeah, all right. Tell me about this Jankan sound. Is it Jankan? You how I pronounce
this one? Janoi sound.
Janoi sound.
Yeah, that was more like a collective of like some people, you know. And they went to Gambia. I mentioned in '91.
So did you actually met them while I was in Jamaica?
No, they were the guy who sort of was behind it. He was a Rasta guy from Liverpool.
Okay.
So he was older than me, but they were some people I knew from that was a connection, and they knew I was into my music, and they had the sound, but they didn't really, you know, but they needed someone to go and select music for them. So that was how I made that connection, because they were carrying their equipment over there, you know.
All right. Then to Spain.
Okay, Spain.
Yeah.
Again, Spain was through someone we knew here. There was a band, a Spanish reggae band. It's called Jamasetas, and I don't know, I think into some form they're still going now, but they used to do little gigs, and someone we knew from here was living over there, and he took us over and we met them, and when they used to play, sometimes we used to, you know, so we used to carry a few tunes with us, and it was just, you know, it was just an easy kind of, it wasn't like, you know, a
gig,
you know, Stix and Janoi, you know, you're some big international superstars, like come over to Spain, but it was more like, you know,
experience.
You know, we're coming over, you know, bring some tunes, you know, and do a little thing, and you know, it was like, at that time in Europe, I don't think that the reggae thing had taken off, and I'm sure we'll come to that a little bit later. But by sort of the 2000s, you know, reggae in Europe had really started to take over.
The Gambia.
Yes.
How the Gambia? Tell me about that.
Yeah, man, it was interesting. You know, it was one of the things that you kind of learned. You know, it was a good experience. You learned that things move a lot slower. You know, than they do.
What was the reggae scene over there? What was the people like?
Again, I think it was. I mean, the people were friendly, but I think it was the reggae music then, probably compared to now, I think was very much a bit in its infancy. A lot of what you used to hear playing around there was more like African music, like West African music, like Yusin Dor and stuff like that. So, you know, people knew like Bob Marley and certain things. I think they knew Ijaman Levi because he'd been over there.
Okay.
But stuff like the up-to-date stuff of that time, what year was it, 91, like things like Supercat and things like that, you know, they went, it wasn't that kind of, the people weren't up to date with that. So it was quite interesting. Sometimes you'd play and people would kind of come and, you know, a few people would dance, but sometimes people would just be kind of quite curious really to know what was going on, you know.
Yeah.
But other places you'd go, depending on maybe what the people, you know, other places you go, people would be kind of dancing. But one funny story over there was, and I hope the guys are not watching now thinking that I'm taking the mickey, but one of the things that was a big lesson to learn was they went over there with a generator. You'll know about generators, Lenny, you know. And we didn't have that experience. And of course the generator we took wasn't a massive one, because of cost.
Yeah.
So anyway, there was one night we were out at this place. It was out in the kind of country. It took a while to get there. And when we got there, it was in what they call a compound, you know, somebody's yard. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a tenement yard type thing. Right. You know? And we set up the music, started playing, and people from around started coming, you know. And the guy was saying to me, yeah, you know, it's going to kind of bum tonight, you know, this is going to be it, you know. So we're going along, and then of course, everything cut. Oh, the generator. Oh, where's the petrol? Oh, and then the guys then had to go with somebody's vehicle to go and find petrol. Gosh. And of course, it's not like we're in northwest London. Yeah, you know, we can't just pop down the road to a 24-hour, you know. So they went off, and of course, by the time they came back with the petrol, I can't remember how long it was, but everybody had gone. You know,
so that was quite experience.
Do you know what I mean? It was quite a funny story in the sense that now you can look back, but then you were just kind of thinking, all right, this is going to be the one, you know, this is going to be the plate, you know, it's going to really, because you could see the people coming, you know, up the road, and they're curious, you know, and they started to come in, and it was all kind of around the edge, you know. But anyway.
I'm going through the countries, you know, first, then we come to actually
Sure.
Mackay. Right, Berlin.
Yeah, that's like my...
Berlin, Japan. Did you say Berlin? Yeah, Germany. When did you went to Germany, and how did that come around?
Well, again, like it was just I went away 1 week. I went once with my wife over there, and I kind of noticed around the place there was a lot of sort of flyers and stuff like that going on, you know. And of course, by then the internet had already kind of come along. So I made some contacts, you know, where you drop someone a note and say, look, I do play music, blah de blah, and then I went over. And funnily enough, I'm actually going over this weekend. So ever since then, sort of 2003, 2004, I've been going over every winter and summer. See, again, you know, not massive things, but it's you know, there's the music scene over there amongst the Europeans is kind of going on, especially in the summertime. There's a lot of things happening, you know, and there's music playing, and they don't seem to have that same problem you get here with you know, the kind of like the licensing and you know, and the kind of, do you know what I mean, to be able to put on a party or something. And the way their licensing works is things run late anyway, so it works perfectly for reggae. You know, something starts 11 at night and goes on till, you know, 5 in the morning type of thing.
Fantastic.
You know, and you don't seem to. Maybe some of the guys over there might be able to tell some stories, but my kind of view from the outside is that it's not. It seems to be a little bit more relaxed. You know, I don't know when you get to the point that it's not relaxed, but it seems to be, you know, that there's a place called Yam. Got a big up Yam and Upliftment Sound as well. But Yam is they've got a beach that they've created. So in the summer, they call it the Reggae Beach.
Okay.
So in the summer, people go and you play basketball, and they've got, you know, beach volleyball, and they've got sound set up and a bar selling cocktails, drinks, teas, coffees, beers, whatever.
How come we have that here, man?
And,
How come we have that here?
People seem to be burning, things seem to be, you know, I always wonder, we're right here, we're out on the street, we're just off the street, we're in quite a busy area, a main train station's across the road, but it's almost like, you know, it's allowed to go on, and then in the evening, sometimes you can be there in the summer from 2 in the afternoon until the next morning.
No, Italy now, is that the music, or was just like another holiday?
No, that was definitely music. That was, my brethren went over to a festival called Rotterdam Sunsplash. They moved it to Spain now. But,
sorry, is reggae music big in Italy?
Well, it's underground, but you'll be surprised, man. They have this festival, Rotterdam. It was a 10-day festival. They don't squash it all in one night. They have like 2 or 3 acts every night.
Okay.
And then afterwards they'll have sounds playing and stuff. So we went over with the Mighty Janoi and played over there in like one of the evenings and like took in the shows and that's how we met people, you know. So I kept going over to that festival for about 3 or 4 years after that, and kind of made some connections with some sounds. Big up Miggy D and Caligula Sound out there, Ancona, and all over, you know. So that's some people that we know there that we connected with, and they still play music. They make music, you know. Honest man, I think it's a part of the music that we don't quite realise here, but just across on that continent, you know, reggae is kind of you know, penetrating. Okay. But how I would describe to you, just to finish on the Europe thing, I describe to you, know, when we come to your house for carnival, and you always say, what is it? Come with, what do you always say, Lenny?
It says arrive with love and arrive with love and leave with peace and unity.
Exactly, and that's okay. So that's how I've kind of found it over there. Yeah. When I go over there, you know, sometimes in London, I'm sure all of us are easygoing, you know, at heart. But sometimes when you have to walk in London or drive or whatever you're doing, you know, you have to be a little bit more
alert,
you know, and a bit more. When you go over there, you feel like even though it's only Europe, you know, it feels like it's got those more kind of, how can I say, like hippie vibes without sounding patronising to anyone.
1982 to 2014, I personally selected Stix. I've actually, you know, step up the ladder. You know, I met you. I think I met before you went on RJR. I have met you. I think it was in Watford or somewhere where you played, and I was very impressed. Right. And I thought somebody said, "Oh, he's on RJR," you know. But I knew you wasn't there, but I not actually met you.
We didn't know that was each other. Yeah.
You know, be a selector of a reggae music as a European. Some people already have it in you. It's hard to learn it because you make mistakes as you go along. But if you have it in you, explore it, you know. And so after your experience in Jamaica, Italy, Germany, Gambia, and all of the places you've been to, if you wasn't actually in reggae music, would you have actually been to these places and holiday, or is it to do with the music?
Yeah, I mean, really, I think it's, you know, that's to me, it's like now, you know, I don't have a lot of free time, so like reggae music's that's my passion, you know. Good. I've got a 9-to-5 job and I've got my family, but after that I like kind of reggae music, you know. And as you know, I always remember Bob Marley saying in one of his interviews, you know, saying, no, when someone was asking him a question, he said, you know, reggae is a music that you have to feel, you know. And that's what I'm like a bit. So the moment I hear it, you know, like my foot, do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
I remember when I first come to London, going sometimes to people's christenings and you know, parties and probably 21st and things like that. It was then 25th. But you know how in London the party sounds, you know, and you play soul and you play a bit of reggae. But I can tell you, I used to be there sometimes at my friends' parties, and I'd be almost standing there, almost impatiently waiting for the DJ them to start playing reggae again. Do you know what I mean? And that's no disrespect to soul music, but it's just that's how I'm kind of. Once I hear the music, I can keep going, you know, and I could, you know, but I need to hear it. When I go to work every day, everyone knows me. Always got my headphones on when I used to work and stuff like that. People say, "Oh, the big tall guy with the headphones." Oh yeah, because I've always, you know what I mean. Anytime, as soon as lunchtime comes, I've got to get my headphones on. I've got to have my fix. I can't really let a day go by, man, when I don't hear something. At least a couple of tunes. You know what I mean? Like,
now come on and selector, because you are a very good selector, and one of the reasons for that I personally believe is because, as you just say, you know, you have to feel it, you know, and it's easy when you feel it, because you know you see the crowd and you know that I'm going to play this and I know that they're going to respond to it. Yeah, I mean, I remember when the first time you came to the carnival, you said, "Lenny, it's the first time I'm gonna actually, and I always want to play in the carnival."
Sure.
As you know, we don't have a great big spot, but what we have is a unity little corner, right? And I remember when you came to play at the house, and it's one of the most easiest time I've ever had with all the DJs I've been there. No disrespect to a lot of the DJ, and I must emphasize this and say,
Of course.
quite proudly, I must give thanks to Papa Winnie. He's one of the men that every single year, without fail, he'll come and he probably do, 2 hours or wherever, and he's always there. And you came along, and then when you start, and I always comforted when he's playing because I don't have to come and do nothing, and I don't have to ask, oh, can you play so and so, and when you played the first time, I was very impressed. I was so impressed because that's the type of audience we're building up. We're building up a unity and love thing, because the carnival have had so many, downfall, and we need to have some, even a little corner where people can say, yeah, the carnival, they're nice. So that to me is a good example of DJ Stix and the bandwagon of reggae music, and sooner, hopefully, and Starrvybz into entertainment as well.
I think I took a lot of strength from that, Lenny, because, I'd been doing stuff in Watford, and over the years I'd done parties, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, of course, I've always had it. I was like, I think a lot of people that I meet, and say sometimes younger people when I speak to them about it, to me, I don't think there's any big secret, but my one thing is that when, say, 15, 20 odd years ago, when someone said to me, I'll come and play, I'd always think about my own choice of music, right? But when you go and play somewhere, it's not always about that. If you come to my house and you said to me, Stix, put on some music, for me, I'm gonna go and find something and put something. Like I've listened to this, Lenny. But when I've over the last, say, 10 years, I really, and it wasn't rocket science, but I started to realise that when you play, that it's not about necessarily your favourite tune. So even if you might like a rhythm,
exactly,
the one that you like might not be the one that's playing. So, to me, it's like I have to put aside my own kind of, I might throw one or two in there, but my kind of view of it is like, you've got to play what the people want to hear. So when I've come to your place, for example, I'm looking around, I'm not knowing for sure, but I've put on a couple of tunes and then, all right, this is the kind of music that's gonna work with this people, Whereas I know, and no disrespect to them, one or two other people might have played there, and sometimes they're kind of trying to impose their thing on it, and it doesn't always work, because if you try to impose your, thing onto 100 other people, the people want to come and they want to. That's how I see it, and it's simple. That's my kind of simplistic view on being a selector. It's not no big hype thing, but it's just about knowing that when you see a certain set of people in the room, if you see a certain set of people in the room, you're not putting on Vybz Cartel because you've got big people in the room. At the same time, normally it doesn't happen to me, but if I went in the room and everyone in there was 20 to 25 years old, and I know that I'm not going to play Dennis Brown and John Holt, you know what I mean? I know I've got to find something fresher for them. So that's what it, to me, it's not, it's just...
well, it's what you call your education of entertainment and the dance floor, and also in the clubs and the parties. Once you got that education around you, it's not a problem, because you can adapt. Because you will look around and you see, there's 200 people in there, and 50 is young, and the others is like middle age and whatever. Then you got to have a mixture. I think what year did you got to RJR? 2000 and
yeah, it's 3 years now.
Yeah, it's 2011. Yeah, 2011. How did that bounce around? How did you actually get yourself?
It was actually someone that's actually a former presenter on the station. I was no longer with the station, but I met him down in Watford in 2010, and we were playing, and Father Jeff was there as well. Yeah. And the guy kind of come up to me, and said, you played some good tunes, man. That you good music, a bit like the effect you would have had at your party. And I said, so I asked him. I said, any chance, you can put in a word with me with the RJR? And he said, yeah, leave it with me. And quite a while passed, and I kept ringing him back, like I thought, let me make him know that I'm interested, Yeah. And then one time they just said, come in. And funnily, when I went in, the day I went in, Isis was there. She was coming in afterwards, so I did actually met her the first time. And I went in, and they said, someone's gone to Jamaica for 6 weeks. Do you want to do the show? Tuesday night, 10 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, of course, you know, I'd love it. But the hard thing for me was not the music, was the actually the talking.
Oh, right.
Because I wasn't used to that. Normally when I'd played before, you'd have guys around, you know, there'd always be someone else to do the mic. You know, I've never wanted to, you know, get up there and try to impersonate and, you know, do you know what I mean? And try to impersonate and be on the mic. I don't mind saying a few words and things. So I think that for me, when I first went to RJR, that was the hardest bit. I was nervous. I was, you know, in my sort of stomach because it felt weird being in there. You know, got the headphones on, I've got the music on, I'm here. You know, normally I'm used to seeing, even if it's only 20 people in front of me, at least I know I'm playing a tune and 10 of those 20 people are dancing. You know, let's carry on. But on there, it was just that kind of, I had to get used to that kind of, you know. But after a while, I found it quite. It sounds a bit, you know, but I found it quite therapeutic.
And you're
really.
Quite comfortable now.
You after a few months, you know, I started getting my wife to record it for me, and I was listening it back, and it wasn't because of any sort of vanity. It was more to do.
Well, that's the best thing to do, anyway.
It was more that I wanted to hear, you know, well, what shouldn't I? You know, no, I shouldn't keep doing that. I need to try and do it more naturally. And after a while, it kind of worked out.
Of all the reggae DJs, presenters you met, is anyone like outstanding in, like, you admire and say, that selector, I really admire that selector, I'll take a page of it,
I couldn't tell you just one, because sometimes I've kind of listened around, you know, like a lot. I mean, when I first come to London, it was Radio London, it was Tony Williams, and Capital, it was Rodigan. So in the beginning, that was something for me.
Okay.
And then, you know, sometimes I used to listen to and then start listening to the community stations, and that's where I used to start hearing a lot of the old time music. And sometimes I don't even remember some of the DJs' names, but I just remember
certain music that they play,
you know, listening to, and you know, that's, you know, just all part of that kind of education. So yeah, I couldn't really say that one person's been an influence on me, because I don't know that I've kind of, I'm not at that level as a presenter. You know, I see myself as someone that plays music and I've got a program, you know, but I'd like to keep improving, you know, as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very short time, you know, I mean, and the improvement is there. But you know, you have the improvement anyway, so we don't have to bother worry about.
You know, I respect people respect people who've been doing it for a long time, and you know, obviously I know that people know the things. So sometimes for me as well, I sometimes listen, and sometimes I hear what I don't want to do as well, and that's not a criticism, because I don't want to go on there and do the same show as the next person. Just to see what I mean.
You've got to be different. You've
So
got
when
to
I go there, you know, at first I thought, I've got to go there, it's RJR, I've got to kind of play like, I've got to play older music, and I've got to play classics and things like that. But then what I realised was what I was doing, I was just doing what other people had been doing, you know, 20 years ago or 10, you know. So I just thought, I've got to try to
build your own,
and build my own thing. And I think once I realised that, after a sort of like a few weeks, like I started to realise that, and that's the way that I went with it, and it helped me because it got me back interested to find out what's going on.
Will it make you more comfortable?
Who are the new artists? What, you know, what are the new rhythms, and you know, and it kind of freshened me up again, because I'd kind of lost that like a little bit, where I'd kind of got a bit bored with it all, you know. Do you know what I mean, Lenny? And I just was happy with the music that I had, but I wasn't always looking for new music. But then that kind of inspired me to go back to where I was, you know, in the beginning, when I was always, you know, because we don't have the record shops anymore, do we? But, you know, going back again, I remember that, you know, coming in, and everyone used to stand up on the counter, and he used to play a tune, and then you put up your, you know, and he comes along and gives you your tune, you know. On a Friday or a Saturday, I used to buzz, you know. I had money in my pocket after work, you know. Used to get paid weekly then in your little brown envelope, you know. And, you know, going along and getting your tunes. And I think the radio, even though I didn't have that same thing with buying the records, but I think that the radio kind of gave me that inspiration to start listening to other people's shows, and even some of the younger people's shows, and that, you know, some of their DJs and sounds that are out there, you know, playing, you know, music that necessarily I wouldn't have listened to before, but just let me hear what's going on. I don't want to be one of these judgmental guys to say, oh, you know, no, anything, I don't like anything new, or no, that's, you know, that's like this or that's like that. I try to be open about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And sometimes I like the softest, sweetest tune, and sometimes like, when I say roughest, I don't mean I don't like the slapness and all that, but sometimes, you know, sometimes I like some quite, you know, hard.
You mean with clean?
Yeah, if it's clean,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes I like some of the really bashy tunes as well.
Yeah.
You know, so the whole kind of spectrum for me. I don't try to just put myself and say, no, I'm only a revival selector, or I'm only going to play singers, or you know how some people kind of, you get into a thing. I still try to be open, and I think it helps to keep me young at heart as well.
Of all the experience you had in the reggae industry, you know, because you're a DJ, so now you're really in the industry. We are in the industry, because, you know, we promote the records, you know.
Sure.
Do you find it easy for you to like obtain music and things like that, up-to-date music, connection with singers and things like that?
Yeah, I think, you know, and I think this is one of the things that, you know, that with Starrvybz Entertainment, you know, I know you guys are trying to do it, but I think that, again, it's all about making use of what's available to you. I was one of these guys that took years to get a mobile phone. I was like, I'm not getting a mobile phone. No, I don't need a mobile, you know. And then it kind of got to the point where now I'm like on it constantly, because that's how I make my connections, Lenny. And you know, and I think that the social networking, it has its downside, you know, because some of it, you know, I don't want to post up there and tell you, you know, oh, I'm having, you know, I'm having my dinner at 7 o'clock, and I'm having you know, this, that, or the other. But it's got me over the last 3-4 years. It's really got me quite a lot of good connections, you know. So I think that social network thing helps. But also, I was also used to buying records, right? I know a lot of people that don't like the iTunes, but I'm quite happy to go to iTunes and pay 79p for the tune. I mean, to me, 79p for the tune. I don't smoke, I don't drink.
Yeah.
You know, so to me, I always bought records. But you know, so sometimes if I'm looking for a tune, even if I've got it in my house and I know I've got it on an LP, but it's, where is it? You know, because you know all your records are somewhere. Yeah. Sometimes I just go on iTunes. If I know I'm going somewhere that night, or I'm doing the radio show, and I think there's a certain tune on there that I've got it somewhere, but rather than dig out the record, 79p, just get it, you know, and bring it off. And sometimes I know that it doesn't, like the producers and everything, it doesn't help them massively, but it goes some way. And I always say, you know, that I've always think that people should take a bit of responsibility to try to support the music kind of legally, you know. I think that in this country, I think we were one of the worst places for pirating the thing, man, and selling our CDs at the moment. And you know, I understand man's got to eat food, you know, and I don't knock it to an extent, but at the same time, I think that I think that's contributed a little bit at times to kind of killing the thing as well. That's why you hear on my show, that's why I play some of these artists like Chronix, Kabaka Pyramid, Kalissa. I'm just trying to I can't think of all the names, you know. But some of these younger, sort of more rootsy kind of artists out of Jamaica, the people who are dealing with their business are kind of that way. You know, like they know that I'm playing their music because I'm interacting through the social networks that we're talking about, and then they'll contact me and say, "Yeah, Stix, you know, thanks for that. You know, thanks for supporting our thing. I'm gonna give me your email address. I've got something for you." And you know, that's how there's sometimes people ask me even at the station, "Oh, how'd you get that?" You know, and it's because even though I know they're not, everyone's like that, but I found that you do get that kind of, you will get a kind of give and take situation sometimes with some of the newer artists. I think that they're aware of the that we're in a different age now. You know, it's not there. You know, the vinyl's still around, but not to that extent.
Yeah.
You know, so they're aware that they're not really gonna how they I don't know how they make their money is not through sales. It's through if a tune does well, if you get shows off the back of it, if you get promotion off the back of it, you get dubs off the back of it, all of that stuff. And I think a lot of the artists are dealing, and I'm not saying it's the right way, I don't know the answer to that, because I'm sure we can talk about it all night, but it's like, I think that some of the younger artists are kind of, you know, dealing with it in a slightly different way. And I do receive a lot of music, but I do sometimes request music from people, and I don't always get it, and sometimes I do. I just need to big up the Unruly Rockers international sound.
Right, I was going to ask you about that.
Down in Tunbridge Wells. Funnily enough, I'm going back to basics with Unruly Rockers, or back to roots, because Unruly Rockers international, Tunbridge Wells. Big up King Unruly, Nigel, Kilimanjaro, Jack Curtis, Dr. Maynard, Shay Auntie, Donovan King J, Owen Wonder, and all the ladies down in Tunbridge Wells, you know.
Right.
We're playing with that sound strictly on vinyl, you know.
Okay.
So even though I'm telling you that I'm getting all these tunes and people are sending me the tunes and I'm making those links, we're still doing things, and we can still do things with vinyl as well. Right. So even though I'm in there, I'm not saying I'm, you know, Mr. Versatile, but at the same time I can do things in the new school way.
Okay.
But I can certainly do it in the old school way as well. So Unruly Rockers International, doing some stuff with them. Got a big event on the 14th of February down in Tunbridge Wells, Peter Huntingale, and hopefully we're going to be doing things regularly, and I've had them in as guests quite regularly on the show and stuff like that. So, you know, and that's sort of part of my speaking to them. That's all part of my kind of the other part of my shows, which is doing interviews. I don't know if you've picked up on that, Lenny.
Yeah, coming to the interview. Yes, the interview is quite interesting. From week to week, I noticed that you have a strong link in interview artists, and that's something good. You know, is highlighting really reggae music and what the artist's doing and how they sound. You can hear some certain people on records, but when they're actually there to hear them, you know, what they like, you know, it's a different story. So it's good that the interview and that link, you seem like you had that really wrapped up with that link.
Well, I mean, the link is there, and big up Ray and the Playmaker group.
I mean, everybody that you interview. I mean, all the artists that you've been interviewing.
That's one of them. Some of the really big names I've had. One or two of them of it is through Mateus. He's the European rep for VP. You know, so I've had some links from him. And then other links I've just made myself through the social networks, or just through meeting people like Christopher Ellis. I've just met through, I don't know how we met, but I just met him anyway. It might have been at a session somewhere. Dj Ranks, again, I met him about 4 or 5 years ago, and that was through like dub plate session, things like that. So, you know, you actually make a contact with people, and then, you know, it comes around the time now with the radio show. I think, oh, actually, you know, let me do that, and it's something that I want to try to do. You need to try and do the interviews, but, you know, I just wish that sometimes I could get the interviews to reach a little bit wider, because I feel that sometimes, because I'm late at night, I don't get that opportunity, you know. But anyway, I give thanks still that I'm able to, but, you know, yeah, I want to keep doing it. And I like listening back to my interviews, because it helps me to know what I need to stop doing as well.
One thing I'd like to ask you, because this is very important, reggae music. How you see reggae music develop within the last 10 years? How you see this in UK? You see it like dropping, or do you think that it looks as if it's going to rise back?
Yeah, well, that's tough. I think that my simplistic way to look at it is that I remember when I first came to London, so in the mid 80s, like, it was reggae or soul, yeah. So, you know, so it was like in the black community, it was reggae music and soul. You went to a party, it was reggae music or soul. But I think what happened was, and, you know, I don't know, whatever, but other genres of music came in. You know, the jungle music came in, you know, and I don't know exactly all the names, but the garage and the grime and the dubstep and all these other things came in. And what kind of happened was that the younger
You know what I'm talking about now? You know?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, when you get to now, that it's not quite as straightforward as it was back then, where maybe a young people in the street who thinks, you know, I can chat on the mic or something, I'm going to be a reggae, you know. Sometimes these guys will do a reggae tune, they'll do a hip hop tune, and they'll do a dubstep tune, or you know, and I think that, so that's why for me, I know I've really been able to answer the question there, Lenny, but I think for me it's not as cut and dry as, you know, is it up or is it down? I think obviously reggae probably doesn't appear to be as popular in the UK for me as it did when I first came to London. But I don't know if I'm looking at it through, you know, someone that's nearer to 50 compared to when I was in my early 20s. But I think that the way that it's gone with the shot, you know, how much less shows there are and all those kind of things, I think you would have to say that reggae's definitely dropped off. But at the same time, it still exists, and it's still important music, you know.
But there's one standard question that probably will finish off with.
Go on, bro.
And do you think it's a good thing that you have European, you have the world, you know, like involved in reggae music? You think it's a good thing?
Yeah,
I like reggae music.
I think 100%, because I think that even though when we were talking earlier and we were talking about Jamaica, it might not be great for London because it was Jamaica, London, New York. But if you think for reggae music, you know, even sometimes on my own show, you know, I get people from, you know, Bermuda, I get people from, you know, other parts of the world who message me and say that they're listening to the show. Now, because of the internet and because of the social media, there's a lot of negative things that have happened. I know that people are against that, but at the same time, you know, you only have to look on these things. You know, there's people in every country in the world listening to reggae. I was tuned in a reggae artist. I know a black reggae artist from Italy, right? His dad's Nigerian, his mum's Italian. His name's Lion D. Big up Lion D and his mum. He was in Czech Republic the other week on a radio show doing an interview in the Czech Republic.
You know what?
You know, so you've got an African, Italian,
Japanese,
you know. So to me, I think it can only be a good thing. But I know that a lot of people won't agree with me. But I think that reggae has reached much wider, and I think that sometimes we forget because we live in our little.
The only one thing I think about that, I mean, I think in the sense of getting reggae back on the map, but is the people behind it? Do they put back something to the original artists and the people who actually, you know, because if you take for instance, in a few years time, you're not going to go to Jamaica to get record anymore. You're going to go to Japan. Because Japan right now, Japan have the crown for the reggae music. Japan have the biggest publisher of reggae music, the biggest sound system.
But listen, so a lot of the Jamaican artists didn't make any money from the Jamaican producers.
Yeah.
John Holt made more money from Blondie doing Tide Is High and those guys than he ever did, and that's no disrespect, than he ever made from all the music that he made for all the producers in Jamaica, because the international market gave him royalties for it. But most of the artists, it's like the harder they come. Most of the artists went in the studio, voiced the tune, got paid $50 or 100 or however much it went up to in the years gone by, voiced the tune, and even if that tune made Top of the Pops, the artist only still got the same.
I mean,
the same that he got.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but
so I think now
time changes.
Yeah, I think now they might get where they can make their money is from traveling the world, doing shows and performances and things like that. So I think if you spoke to an artist, they would tell you that even if they've got 300 tunes out, it's not from the 300 tunes selling, but it's from where people know 10 of those tunes. That means that somebody in Costa Rica says, yo, come over to Costa Rica, make a show. Somebody in India says, come over to India, make a show. Somebody in, do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I follow
Whereas back in the day, the artists only really had UK, America, Canada, and the Caribbean.
As you were saying, back in the days, the reggae music was cheap, very cheap, and obviously finance and everything, you know, different. But now, I personally, as a DJ who've been in it for so long, I think it's a good thing that reggae music is spreading, and the more they get into it, is the more people, four corners of the world, would recognize reggae. Is recognized by Bob Marley. Ask anybody, they say Bob Marley, but we need more than that. And I would say, with that, Starrvybz, the entertainment, we gonna make sure, and yourself, Mr. Stix, keep pumping it and to the world.
Just before we finish, I've just got to shout out to my wife Michelle, my daughters Hermione and Estelle, and also all the regular listeners, especially all the ladies in Tunbridge Wells. Too many names to mention: Chantel, Martin, and anyone else that I've forgotten. Upliftment Sound Berlin, Caligula Sound Italy, Unruly Rockers.
Roll them up.
Okay, and Starrvybz Entertainment.
Starrvybz
Big
Entertainment
up yourself,
every time. Yeah,
every
bless
time.
him, man. Bless
and
him.
of course Lenny Ranks, and not forgetting RJR, number one station. Yeah.
And your show is on, and I like your show. Your show is on Tuesday night, 10 till 12.
10 until midnight, every Tuesday. RJR. Anywhere in the world, yeah? Anytime, any place, anywhere.
And do remember, log on, Lenny Ranks, right? Monday 12 till 2 p.m. and Thursday Reggae Spice, 2 to 4. It's always Starrvybz Entertainment, RJR 98.3 FM. We rule the world.
All right.
Bless and
Big up,
guidance,
yes,
unity and love.